It's this singularity that's happening between the club really getting squeezed and this push in the leg happening. This step, and when you spike the ground, your hand should be about armpit high, or your left arm should be parallel. Coincides exactly with when there's the most squeeze in your hands. And from then on, you basically let go of it. Recently, I've had Kirill Gurevich on the channel who was talking about the hand pressure pattern, like the grip pressure pattern. He's got this sensor edge grip that can tell, like I think samples over 500 times in a minute, when and how hard you're squeezing the grip, and also where and which hand, whether you're squeezing it with your trail hand or lead hand. The first thing about that is that he's found that the lead hand is way more involved and way more important in what it does than the trail hand. Now the thing with Kirill, with all this stuff, like he doesn't jump to any conclusions. Like if he says something, he doesn't want to, step on the toes of certain instructors or whatever, and he would only say it like if he's like definitively proved it. I'm not like that. Like I think I've seen some things with this that I'm going to jump to conclusions about that Kirill would not jump to. So what Kirill has found in general is that people take it back however firm they take it, but then in transition, this is where they're really squeezing it quite a bit. Somebody that was writing on the channel, and I thought this was a great image, is basically you would take it back and then right about here at P5, so that's when your left arm is parallel to the ground on the way down. Imagine you're squeezing a tube of toothpaste, and it's actually, that is when it would come out of the toothpaste. And then it has to relax all the way through the ball. It's starting to get less and less and less. And then right at impact, if you were, a lot of people, a lot of golfers are squeezing about right here, good golfers, squeezing it at like either between 95 and 105%. And then it starts to get let off all the way to impact, which would be around like, a normal number might be around like 30% of their max squeeze at impact. Now, what does that mean? What that means is that when you test it, you squeeze statically as hard as you can on your left hand and then on your right hand and then together, right? So what he's finding is that however hard you squeeze statically, you're actually, when you get to about here, a lot of good golfers are getting 5% more squeeze here. They're squeezing 5% harder than they were able to when they were just absolutely sitting there. He wants you to squeeze it so hard that like you're shaking, like as hard as you possibly can. That is much firmer than what people have been taught, and I think that is a lot more firm than what amateurs do. With the amateur pattern, I think basically what they're doing is they have the club however tight they have it. They do all different types of things. But then in transition, there's actually a loosening of the hands in transition, and then they start to re-tighten, tighten. They're tightening all the way to like the ball's even gone, and then they do whatever they do. They loosen them or re-grip them like I was or whatever. So that's kind of the grip force pattern. This is what's really interesting to me though, and I think this is the secret that I've learned putting together the stuff from other pressure plates together with what he learned with the hands. And this is a gross oversimplification, but that's fine, that's what we want. Basically, he noticed that at P5, that is when the hands are absolutely squeezing the club the tightest on the majority of really good golfers, right? Also, when I was doing stuff with another pressure plate company, they showed me that P5 is roundabout when there's the max force into the ground. So P5 is this point at which good golfers are squeezing the club the hardest with their hands, and it's also the point at which usually that this lead leg is pushing the ground the most. So everything past P5 is you're now coming up off the ground as the club, you're basically letting go of the club through impact. So basically you have to spike that pressure in the ground at the same moment you're absolutely squeezing the club, but it's like this impulse. And that's the other thing that he taught me, is that not everybody has that kind of impulse that can squeeze and release as fast as the pros do. Get over there. So that's, I gotta realign myself. So if I go over here, this 8-iron. So that is this kind of matching singularity that I've noticed, that Kirill, I asked him if that's true, and he said, oh, it would be too early to tell. He would have to, he's tested a bunch of pros and a bunch of regular players, but he would have to start looking at the data to see really if there is this big matching that happens there. I don't know what to call it, but it's like this singular moment that is really crucial, that what's happening is pros make their transition, they spike up off the ground, and when that spike off the ground is the most, that is also when the hands have absolutely squeezed the club the hardest. After that spiking, you continue up and away from the ground as the hands through impact are getting softer and softer. So for me, I want to feel like I go here and I want to feel like my hands are really actually feeling quite tight in transition, and then really letting it go through impact. And that's getting me to hit the ball really well. So that is like as straight as I can point and right on the green. So basically the move, and this is something that Kirill's going to come here to my backyard, and he's going to bring his sensor edge plates for the ground, and then also the sensor edge grip. But without that stuff, what you can try to do is feel that you are squeezing right here in transition. Through transition, you are squeezing the toothpaste out of the bottle, and then totally letting go of the club. Now with your leg, you feel like you're stepping and pushing. As that squeeze is happening, you're stepping and pushing. And then you really have to just let it go through impact. Don't try to control it anymore after that. Once it spikes, it basically totally gets thrown out of your hands. Squeeze and release. And that is straight. Go. Okay? That was a 0.2 degrees left, and the path was 0.12 into out. The thing that I was doing before was squeezing all the way to here, and then I would have this really late let go, and then re-squeeze right away. So I am trying to squeeze it much firmer in transition, and then let it go sooner. And this is me trying to get this. Now I want to get this all the way to that 180 flag. So I'm going to really control it with some squeeze through transition. And then that's as I'm spiking the ground with my left foot. So it's really as if I'm stepping into it, spiking the ground as I squeeze it, and then it gets let go. So it's almost as if you step into the ground as you're squeezing the hands. The hand squeeze controls the club, and it gets accelerated to there. And then once you've spiked the ground, that's when that kind of makes the energy come through. If you remember, this stuff all goes right back to what Dr. Kwan told me. If you remember, Dr. Kwan would say, you're going to feel like you're kick-starting a motorcycle or something like that. You're going to feel like you're coming in and kicking that, and then that makes the club kick through. That's the feeling of putting these two things together. Hands are squeezing it, the kick happens, and then the club kicks through. The foot kick happens, which is this, and then the club kicks through. So we'll try to stretch this one out. I mean, this would be a really far 8-iron, especially for a Psy-Core ball here. But that is really straight. Stop. There you go. That is super good. So that's a Psy-Core ball, which should go shorter than a real ball. 171 carry, 179 total. So it's like, that is just awesome. And I have to think of some way to, like, something to call this, but it's this singularity that's happening between the club really getting squeezed and this push in the leg happening. Yeah, and that's about, for a side core ball, that's about the furthest I would want to stretch that out. Okay, so putting it all together, get super good at these two shots. 100 yards with your 8-iron. That just feels waist to waist. It almost feels like no elbow bend with the right elbow, like this and this. Okay? Feels like you're doing it all with rotation. That one was a little long, but it's still on the green. So that'd be a success. And then you would actually chart that. So like if you did 10 of those a day, you would chart how often you were able to hit that green. So that's 1. That was 2, and so on. The second thing we talked about was, now there is this step, and when you spike the ground, your hand should be about armpit high, or your left arm should be parallel, P5, right? That's when you spike the ground. That is also coincides exactly with when there's the most squeeze in your hands. And from then on, you basically let go of it. 200-yard target. Oh boy, I crushed it. I'm just not going to be able to reach that target from this far away with an 8-iron, but still really good. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for being members. See you later. Bye.